This is the Balanced Growth Show with Dr. Travis Perry, helping successful business professionals like you achieve balance in their lives.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Balanced Growth Show. I'm your host, as always, Dr. Travis Perry. Today we have a special guest, Matt Di Francesco. Matt is the founder of High Lift Financial. High Lift Financial provides transition and succession planning, financial planning, investment advisory, and retirement planning to automotive collision shop owners around the country who need assistance in navigating today's challenges and tomorrow's transition. With this unique blend of knowledge and experience, Matt is specially equipped to facilitate clarity and confidence and owners' successful exit from their business, guide them in maintaining family unity, and assisting them in creating multi-generational wealth. He's the father of 4 adult children and lives with his wife, Ann, in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Matt, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Travis. I'm really excited to talk with you here.
Absolutely. I want to get to your blend of knowledge and experience. Why don't you catch us up on what you've done in the past? What got you here as a financial planner focusing on exit planning for, shop owners?
It's a long story. I'll give you the condensed version, but I did a number of things. I didn't get into financial services until I was in my early 40s. And at the time I got in not really knowing what I was getting into. I remember when I was interviewing and my branch manager was always like, oh, your dad's an attorney, your father's attorney. This is a no-brainer. You'll get all kinds of clients in. And little did I know that they worked with very small clients. And it was a lot of personal injury, workman's comp that didn't have a lot of money that was tied to it. So I get in and I don't have access to any family money, no friends, rich friends, anything like that. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to build this business. And I knew muni bonds really well, and I learned 401k. So basically, the early part of my career was cold calling all day, family businesses. Do you have a retirement plan? Do you know the tax benefits with one? You do have one. When's the last time you had it reviewed? Do you have a fiduciary responsibility? And I started just selling these plans. And then I spent all night calling physicians and selling them, AA rated University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, AA bonds. And that's how I built my practice. So I kind of had this big core of family businesses that I was working with. And coming from a family business and in my previous lives, having worked with them, knew some of the intricacies, started doing more consulting work, which just didn't fit the wirehouse mold that I was working in. So 10 years ago, I went independent to take I called it more of like a concierge type of practice where I was their financial point person on all matters. And I could direct them and kind of be the conductor of all their financial affairs. Picked up a couple of collision clients and really just liked the demographic. I did the research behind it. They're kind of the millionaire next door guys, very down to earth. They're not country club people. They like to hunt. They like to fish, ride motorcycles, do those type of things. And so I just decided to look and say, you know what, I want to work with this specific group. So that's basically what's brought me to this point. And usually what I find is that with a business owner, and especially a collision shop owner, the majority of their wealth is tied into their business. So really that's where the kind of the business transition strategy comes in, because if we're going to create multi-generational wealth, we have to figure out what we're going to do with this business. Are we going to sell it to a third party? Is it going to be a family transition? Are there insiders that are interested in taking over? And then how do we take the proceeds from that and create a multi-generational legacy?
Well, I love that. I love that you've been able to take your background there with kind of the legal end and see that there was a natural fit for those who have need of your father's services there as an attorney, and kind of see like that there's a niche there. Right. We're going to get into this a little bit later, but I love what you've done, and it just speaks volumes for the service that you're able to render. We'll talk about this again a little bit later, but let's talk about balance for a second. Yeah. As you've been growing your business, you've done a lot of different things, and you've been a lot of different places. Like you said, you were calling all night sometimes and doing these things, and so let's talk about balance. Why is it important now that as you're growing your business that you have better balance than maybe you did before?
Well, I think the first thing is, again, especially if you value other things like your family, even your personal life. You can tend to get lost in it if you're always just grinding it out at the office. And we were discussing this a little bit. The financial service industry really sells us a bill of goods. And I think, it's about, you just got to work hard, grind, be at the office to ungodly hours. And that was what I was raised under. My branch manager was all about, I'd be cold calling at night. I'd be the only one in the office and the phone would ring and I'd pick it up and it was him. What are you doing? And he was checking just to see if I was there. So, I'm putting in all these hours and my family's beginning to wonder. I remember I went on a trip and I came home and my wife said to my one son, she goes, did you miss dad? And he was like, I didn't know he was gone. Yeah. So that was kind of a wake up call for me. And, what happened I started working with this coach about 12 years ago. And when we initially started working, he was really big on mindset and getting your morning ritual and getting into the game, but also about your daily task list. And that's kind of the last step on our morning rituals. We call it our morning 8 is review your game plan for that day. So every day having a game plan and, as you're going through the day, check them off. And when you're completed with your game plan, leave. You don't get paid by the hour. And so that's what I started doing. And it really transformed my life because if I got done at 3:00, I'd leave the office at 3:00. If I still had stuff that I didn't get done or I was messing around and I had to stay to 7, I had to stay to 7. But the daily game plan and task list became kind of my working template for what to do in that day and how to start controlling my time.
So do you feel that wake-up call that you had has really propelled you to continue to have this game plan and live by the game plan? Was it something else? Or I'm just kind of putting those two together saying, 1 + 1 here. And if so, how has that improved over time that you've stuck with your game plan?
Yeah, well, I think really there's another point to all of that. And it was funny when it was actually very early on. I was, when I actually met my coach and we were doing, some business planning and he asked me a question that came from Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week. And he said, if retirement was not an option for you, how would your life and business be different? And it was a question that really struck me to the core because that I began to realize that could be a reality for me. I mean, I started, when we got married, my wife was a stay-at-home mom. I had some low-paying jobs, really was behind the 8 ball as far as retirement savings. And I was like, well, what if I couldn't retire? How would I design my business? And what I really decided was if I can design a practice where I love what I do, but I can have the flexibility to be able to do it, wherever I am in the world, I could live with that, kind of build mini retirements in. So that coupled with the daily task list helped me to start to find that balance in there while I'm still, trying to live this lifestyle practice.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Like that has given you the long term, right?
Yes.
We call it internal motivation. It sounds like you have had a really great coach that's really allowed you to kind of figure this out and pull this out. It's there, but having a great coach is super helpful anyway. Plugging the coaching industry, but someone that can really ask those good questions and help you see when you're getting off the course there. Yeah, so as you've improved, as you've gone through life and seen different parts of your business grow, let's talk about how the business has grown. What are you doing that's working well? I know you have a fantastic niche. Is that the secret to what's going on here? Let's talk about it.
You know what? I'll be honest with you. I really, the deeper I get involved in and believe that every advisor or no matter any business owner should really narrow their focus. I mean, if you're a business owner that's looking to exit, having a niche and being much more boutique-y raises the value of your business. But I think just on a personal level, having that niche helps you to become, first off, the expert in that area. You learn to speak that language, and you can go much deeper with that client. And if you're looking at this idea of balance, I guess I'll ask the financial advisors out there a question. Would you rather have 100 or 300 clients out there that are generating, a ton of revenue for you, or would you like to have 50 clients that are generating the same amount of revenue? And I think that by having a niche, you can become that expert, and you can actually narrow the number of clients that you work with without creating more work and still generate the kind of revenue that you want. So I think there's a real benefit to that. Just kind of finding that one area, and it's got to be an area that you like. Okay. Now I'm going to preface this. I have no background in the collision industry. None whatsoever. I tease my clients. I say, I didn't find the collision industry. It kind of found me. It was really just by chance. Had a couple clients that were collision owners. I started thinking, maybe I want to go deeper instead of kind of doing this broad family business. And I started looking at the demographics with the collision industry. It fit. There's 40,000 collision shops out there. 70% of them are independent family owned. 12,000 of those are doing $1 million in revenue and up at 40% gross profit. They're down to earth people. They're grinders like me. And a lot of them, what happens is they get to be kind of where I was, where, you're grinding. And all of a sudden you look up from under the hood and go, now what? And that's kind of where my focus has been, is helping them to kind of create a vision that then we can build a plan off of it. I always use the example that, and this is really in any kind of financial planning, it's really putting the pieces of the puzzle together. But if you don't have the box top with the picture on it, it's really tough to put that puzzle together. So we got to create the picture first. And it's amazing to me. I got one of the guys, he's one of my best clients. And, we were doing the transition plan, and we helped him to put this vision together. And all of a sudden he realized, what? I don't want to exit my business. What I want to do is I want to take a big 50,000 foot level, and I want to build culture, and I want to build my people, and I'll get my kids to learn the operations and the day-to-day stuff. I want to build a great culture.
Yeah, when we talk about the balanced growth method, people like to, talk about it as some kind of marketing or sales method. But in my book, Balanced Growth, I'm actually going to be talking mostly about exactly what you discussed as a niche. Some people call it a fractal. Some people call it a niche. Whatever you call it, specialize in helping a specific group, because they're going to see you as their guy or their gal, right? That you will have a much better opportunity to reach them when you just work for them. In addition, as you mentioned, I don't think any financial advisor out there would say, yeah, I'd love to have 300 versus 50 and have the same amount of revenue. Like it just doesn't make sense unless you're the kind of person that maybe you just love to work with tons of people and you're not burnt out yet. Yeah.
We all like to think we're there, right?
Right. I mean, so it's a constant battle, and I've seen so many different business models, at being a financial advisor and being in the industry. But what I've loved about talking with you, and even in the pre-show, is just how people are, self-referring because they know that you're the guy that works with shop owners. And this is something that we need to talk about for a second, because I know you do get referrals. So let's talk about the referrals. Like, because you've niched down, talk to me about how that referral game is going.
Well, it's actually interesting because I get referrals, but my referrals come more from circles of influence. So as I was trying to develop a name in this collision space, kind of my first step was, I subscribed to the periodicals, and I'd start reading them to learn more and more about the industry. And I would see authors that wrote articles, and there was some that would really kind of capture me. So I would reach out to them. My marketing team would reach out to them, and I would get them on my podcast. All right. And so we'd have them on. We developed these relationships. And through that, I love their story. They liked my story. And so that's where the bulk of my referrals come. I don't get a lot from clients. And it was funny because I was a bit puzzled by all this. Like, what, am I not doing a good job? And all of a sudden, as I talked with them, what I realized was I was getting referrals from them because of scarcity. They were afraid if they referred their friend who had a collision shop that they were going to lose my time. And so, it's kind of an interesting, the whole idea is interesting again, and I think it comes down to about scarcity instead of abundance. And I think that many times we get stuck in that scarcity mode, and we really need to kind of break ourselves out of that. Otherwise, we're never going to really find that balance, because we're always going to be worried that we're not going to get our slice of the pie, not even realizing that the whole pie is available to not only us, but to everybody.
Wow, I think you just dropped a gold nugget here for everybody to pay attention to. Referrals are good, and that's the name of the game for most financial advisors that I've met.
Right.
And having a great niche can bring those referrals. But I think, as I mentioned before, the self-referral, someone who comes to you because they notice that you've got a podcast, you've got a book, you've got a blog, you have material and content that's being put out there, and they see you as the expert, they're going to want to hire you. But
Right.
this idea of your clients not wanting to refer you because they've got a scarcity mindset.
Right.
That's incredible. That's a revelation, I think, to most of us, going, well, maybe that's why we're not getting referrals from our clients. Plus, the other side of this, and I've had Bill Cates on here in an episode many moons ago where we've talked about referrals, and it's super important to understand, like, referrals are going to be a part of your business.
Oh, yeah.
But if you come off very needy, your clients may be wondering, why do you need, and why are you asking all the time? And so there is a fine line. I don't want to use balance, but there's a fine line of measuring, like, where do you set on putting yourself out there as the one ready and willing to take referrals, and how your process is a system with that versus always being needy and begging. It comes across just a totally different way. But I appreciate you bringing this up, Matt. Anything else you wanted to add on that?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I know, we were talking earlier about this idea of, content and using books. And the other thing that I started doing was I started writing articles for the collision industry and getting them published in the publications there. And a lot of businesses come out of that. And it's interesting, kind of the synergy that's happened between articles and these circles of influences. And I was just actually one of so I created this mastermind of a couple of us in the collision industry, all doing kind of separate disciplines. And we created out of that this thing, we call it the Collision Cocktail Hour, which we do once a month. And we get anywhere from 20 to 65 shop owners on this monthly. And it's kind of an open forum. We'll throw a topic out there and allow everybody just to kind of discuss and pull our minds together. But two of my peers that were on that, they were on they were on a podcast. The one hosts it, and the ones that she's an M&A expert in the collision industry, and all of a sudden she's like, and there's a lot of times I run into people that want to do family transfers, and I refer them to my friend Matt Di Francesco. This is in the middle of the podcast, and Mickey's like, yeah, we're going to put Matt's contact information in there. So all of a sudden now there's this synergy among circles of influences, articles. And funny story, my coach was on a cruise a couple months ago. And when he came back, we were having our coaching call, and he said, he goes, on the cruise, I met this shop owner from Tennessee, and I was mentioning, I work with a guy who's a collision shop. He's like, oh yeah, I know him. I read his articles all the time. I've heard him mention these podcasts. So you start to all of a sudden create this voice within the industry. And it's the most fascinating thing in the world. But I think it's just getting, being bold enough just to kind of take that step and realize that I'm going to go deep to allow myself to be broader, to create abundance.
Yeah. I think the abundance mentality needs to be there for the advisor, for the business owner,
yes,
as well as the client, like you were talking about. And, maybe it is, you talk, about abundance and how you want to help other people. And there's definitely, Bill Cates talks about that a lot, about his referrals. And I definitely don't think that you don't ever not ask for referrals. But I like what you're saying about, we need to have the abundance mentality as the business owner, and we need to be able to understand that if we can go deep and we can niche down, the further that you niche, they always say the riches are in the niches, but the further that you niche, the more people will trust you, and the more that others can refer to you. Instead of thinking, oh, you're the financial advisor,
Right.
there's millions of financial advisors. But if they go, this guy helps business owners exit their business, when they see that come up, shop owners specifically, they're going to send referrals because you're that guy. And I think that's where advisors struggle, is they come out trying to be different by, I'm comprehensive, or I'm a fiduciary, or I'm this and the other. Like, you don't have any differentiation anymore. Sorry, it's
nothing.
not.
They're all buzzwords.
It's all buzzwords.
Holistic. I do holistic financial planning. What the heck does that mean, right?
Yeah. Well, and nowadays, even if that's what you do, it's not who you are.
Right.
I do holistic planning for, summer sales managers. Like that was my niche when I was a financial advisor back in 2012.
Wow.
Like, so I would get referred into this whole circle of, these summer sales guys that were making a lot of money, and then their wives were like, okay, we're not blowing this all on a truck, right? Like, we're going to have some security. So that's when I started working with them. But I started getting referrals to everyone, like, hey, you're the guy that's helping those people. Exactly. And then you start to know them, and, more importantly, you know how to help them.
Right.
And you can help them because you know what they're up against, what their struggles are, what their challenges are, and we could go on and on. But I think back to this main point is that if you don't have a really incredibly decided niche like you do, Matt, it's an uphill battle, and you're becoming a generalist. So that's a difficult world. What do you think? What do you think is the biggest struggle? Even though you have your niche, even though that you're getting some self-referrals, and your content is speaking for you, which is awesome, by the way, the articles and everything are speaking for you, which is exactly what we call invitology. You get people to recognize you as the expert, and they self-refer. Right. But what do you think are some of the biggest struggles you're dealing with as you're scaling your business without losing that sense of balance that you really need?
Yeah, probably the biggest thing. And again, it's really battling that scarcity mode to a certain extent, because, the biggest fear that a business owner has, and especially a shop owner, I joke with a lot of my clients. I said, you can always take the boy out of the shop, but you can't take the shop out of the boy. And they really have a hard time, just trying to picture what a life outside the business would be. And as a result, they tend to kind of get stuck. And so, you can sit there and you can kind of fight the battle with them. Sometimes it's better just to say, you know what, when you're ready, I'll go. But as advisors, that's hard for us to do. So it's really, again, understanding how to kind of keep those boundaries and maintain an abundance mentality without letting yourself get sucked into, this guy needs me. I know he needs me, but so I got to pull him in, and I remember an old mentor of mine used to always tell me, if I grab the hood of your sweatshirt and pull you, Travis, what's your natural inclination to do?
Yeah, I'm gonna want to punch you in the face. I'm like,
or you're gonna want to pull. Your first thing,
pull back,
right?
Yeah, like, right? It's choking.
But if I said, Travis, get out of here, and I just give you a gentle nudge, what are you gonna do? You're gonna want to start coming for me. It's reciprocity in a sense, which Cialdini talks about. And so sometimes we have to say, you know what? I realize now it's not the nighttime, and that's okay. All right, you call me when you're ready. And that's so, like, again, if we're dealing with a scarcity mentality, that's very hard to do. That's really hard to do. But sometimes that's what we need to do, especially when we're trying to develop a niche and we're like, I need to get 6 new collision shop owners in this year. That's what I set my goal as. We have to, again, remember there's abundance, and we've just got to say, sometimes push them away, because sometimes when we push them away, they're going to come toward you and say, you know what? Yeah, now I realize I don't want to lose you. And I know I need to find a solution to this. And now we start to get them moving in the right direction. But the bottom line is, again, still fighting that scarcity mentality. And I don't think you ever get over it. It's a constant battle. But, we've got to continue to keep working on our minds. I mean, I'm listening to David Goggins' book right now again. And, and he talks in there the whole time. All this crazy stuff that he was doing was really just a battle of his own mind. And I think we have to do that all the time.
I think you're exactly right when it comes to scarcity being a very real struggle.
Mhm.
And it's crazy because, I found that a lot of financial advisors have kind of fallen into this industry or found this industry or been attracted to this industry because they have some issues around money. Maybe
Yeah.
they didn't grow up with money, or they grew up with problems with money or scarcity around it. There are some who
Yeah.
grew up with money all around them, and it's not an issue. But I find typically that that's not the case. That you're attracted to this industry because you want to fix it, and it
Yeah.
was that same way for me. And I'm not just saying that because it was. I've interviewed close to 1,000 advisors now for
Mhm.
this show and for my books, and there's a big piece that I leave at the end of my book that most people don't really pick up on. They get partway through the book
Right.
and they get started in time management, but it's that last chapter on fear. And I
Hmm.
think you nailed it. Fear of loss or fear of gain.
Gain. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's this fear of failure or fear of success.
Hmm.
If you're and I learned this from Joe Vitale, he's very great in the personal development spheres and
Right.
has really uncovered a lot of this, but I call it the fear tree. And I kind of have to look at the roots, like where are their beginnings, where do they struggle with in order to start seeing these fears show up in their life. And some people are afraid of losing, and they're afraid of
Hmm.
losing in the market, so their risk tolerance is pretty low, right? Or they're
Right.
afraid of success, meaning they're afraid to have money because of what it might do to their relationships, to their, simple lifestyle.
Right.
So we have to address these fears because otherwise, A, the referrals might not be coming in. You may not be, running your business the way that you should because
Right.
you have a scarcity mentality like if I niche down, I'm going to lose others. And this is what I like to tell my clients, like,
Mm.
go ahead, niche down, niche deep. You're the business owner. You can make an exception. So if you work with shop
Right.
owners, someone comes in like, well, I'm actually a barber. You can decide.
Mhm.
Do you want to take them on? Do you want to make that exception or
Right.
not? And I've made exceptions from time
Oh
time
yeah.
because I'm the business owner. But if the exception is the rule, that's when it becomes a problem.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's again, you've got to you have to be very careful of that. And I think sometimes, something that popped in my mind as you were talking about this idea of fear of success. Um, Sometimes I think we can self sabotage ourselves. And like I grew up in, and I explained this to you pre-call. My dad was an attorney. We were, we did well. I mean, we were never starving for food. We didn't live in, palaces or anything like that. But my dad kind of came from my grandfather was an immigrant, first one to go to college. First he went to law school, was a big shot. He went to became DA, ran for judge, but he was really involved in working with the working class. And there was a lot of times in my life where my parents would just bash the wealthy and just like, why do they need to drive a BMW? Our Toyota's fine.
Right.
But what's really kind of scary is that gets into your subconscious. And there was a lot of times, especially early in the business, where that fear of success was very eminent and sometimes I would self-sabotage that. Well, yeah, I've got somebody with some net worth that's coming to me, and it's like, well, wait, am I gonna become like them? Am I gonna, all of a sudden want to have a BMW, things like that? And I really, that was a battle for me. I've got to constantly tell myself that, what, it's okay that you can benefit more people. Being very, faith is a big part of my life, a
Yeah.
huge part of my life.
Yeah.
And it was only probably in the last, I'd say 5 to 7 years that I finally, one of my affirmations is that I am successful because it's good for my family and I can do more good for others. And that was really life-changing for me because again, now all of a sudden I didn't have to be afraid of success because I could benefit others by becoming successful.
Yeah. And again, it's the fear, right? It's the
Yeah.
fear of if I become so successful, what will other people think of me?
Yeah.
And I know, you're a man of faith, I'm a man of faith, and if you're not, that's okay. We still love you. It's
Oh yeah.
this. I think some people who are who believe in God tend to look at scriptures and misunderstand. a lot of the passages about the rich man, the rich ruler,
Exactly.
what God's word has been on being wealthy, and essentially that the love of money is the root of all evil, not money.
Exactly.
It's not
Right.
the root of all evil. But I think still growing up with it, Matt,
Mhm.
in your subconscious, this is why I studied psychology so intensely, is that we have a lot of these scripts and behaviors and histories that drive our present. And
Mhm.
that is definitely something to continue to work on. I'm glad that it is something that you realize you've got to continue to read books, you continue to do those things so that you can
Yeah.
fight it off. To end, what do you think here? Because I know we need to wrap up, but what do you see as some of the biggest issues working with your shop owners, these other
Right.
entrepreneurs, these other business owners outside of this industry? What do you see as some of the biggest issues for them to have balanced growth in their life and business?
Right. I think the first one is what I talked about earlier is having a vision for what they want their lives to look like. And again, the scarcity mentality is huge, even within really any business, but in the collision industry, getting them to understand that there is more out there and that they can have a greater life and they can create a greater life for their kids and grandkids. You know, that's really the biggest message that I have. And I think the other thing is that trying to get them to understand this early on, that, I get a lot of guys that come to me and say, like, they say, you know what, I need to exit my business. I can't do this anymore. And I need to get out in the next year. I have to push them away. I said, I can't, I'm not a magician. All right. I mean, really, ideally, you need about minimum 5 years to be able to put proper processes and systems in place and be able to train the kids, to be able and actually work on the family dynamic if you're doing a family transfer, because that's the other issue is that, again, and I tell the kids this all the time, what they don't understand, because, they might be working in the business and they're finding they're having this constant battle with mom and dad and they won't listen to me. I don't understand. And I said, look, you got to understand, they built this shop from the ground up. This is as much of a child to them as you are. And it's not that they love you any more or less, but it's their child too. And they see you as a threat to that because you don't have the skills that they have, that you're going to kill their child. All right. Now, all of a sudden, it's like the light bulbs go off in their head and it changes the whole dynamic, because now they see, oh, I get it now. And now maybe sometimes we have to fire the kids because they need to go in the outside world to really understand what it's like out there. Okay. But sometimes they get it. And it's like, okay, I'm going to humble myself and understand where mom and dad are coming from. And those are the ones that become the most productive, because now they're starting to get into the same they have a synergistic mindset with their parents, and those are the ones that tend to accelerate. But again, it's getting everybody to understand too that, even though it's a business, it's something that they've birthed.
Yeah, no, I mean, bringing up the family aspect of this, that it's like their baby, and to bring in family relations to all of this can get very complicated. And
Right.
there's I've worked with some family businesses on balance and growing their business, and that's what I've found a lot of the time, is that there's these underlying covert rules and things or experiences that they've had that have never been able to be solved. And so a lot of times it's that the family therapy, the family counseling that needs to happen through the process. And you're right, it's going to take five to plus years to
Oh
be able
yeah.
to make this transition happen really well. And I love what you're doing. I know it's needed. I come from a family business,
Mhm.
that third generation, and we can have our long conversation about it, maybe even offline. But
Yeah,
it's
that's right.
a struggle, regardless. They're very
Yeah.
successful when they're working well, and
Mhm.
it's a struggle when you get to this point, like, okay, do we sell? Do we get to the next generation? Are there really anyone out there that in the business that want to take the business over?
That's it.
So You know it. Well, I appreciate your time. If people want to, reach out to you, if they want to find you, if they're business owners, or if they want to connect with you because they have someone that needs your help, and
Right.
they're like, yeah, we need Matt. These guys are shop owners or in this industry. They're
Yeah.
exiting the business in the next few years, and they want to work with you. What's the best way to get a hold of you, Matt?
Well, one thing, and I'll give everybody 30 minutes of my time, no cost, no obligation, just to talk about your situation, see if I can help. And the one thing I always do, even if I can't help, or maybe you just don't fit into my niche, I promise I will get you directed in a direction that you need to go, either to another advisor or to other resources that are out there. And sometimes it might be about, you know what, you need to find balance first, and I'll send them over to Travis. But so that's the first thing. You can go to my website, highliftfinancial.com. At the on the home screen, there's a Let's Chat box. You can click on that, get right onto my calendar. You can also email me at matt@highliftfin.com. And like I said, I'm more than happy to give anybody 20, 30 minutes of my time, no cost, no obligation.
Nice. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you having you as a guest on the show. You're an excellent guest. You also have a
Thanks.
podcast.
Yep.
If people want to listen to you, what's the podcast name again?
Yeah, it's called Your Business, Your Life. And the whole idea is that, what happens in your business affects your life, and what happens in your life affects your business. And that's really why they're all intertwined. We can't say business is business, family is family. It doesn't work that way. Everything comes together.
Very balanced approach. I love it.
Right.
And I appreciate what you do for all of us. The economy, we're all hanging together, and I appreciate your work out there, buddy. Thank you.
Oh, and I appreciate what you're doing out there, because I think there's a lot of misnomers about business, and from, I know the content that you're producing, you're really starting to clear some of that up. So I appreciate what you're doing there, Travis, too.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening, everybody out there. This has been a great episode. We've dove deep into some really important and timely topics. We've talked scarcity and growth, and how to improve your balance as an advisor, as a business owner. If you've loved this, subscribe, share, continue to listen to other episodes. Go back and find the ones we're talking about with Bill Cates. We'll put that in there in the show notes as well, and check everything out on Matt, as he's been an excellent guest. We'll have those in the show notes below once this is live. Thanks again, Matt, and thank you everyone for listening. And remember, until next time, live life on purpose.